Welcome to the Gathering Podcast.
Episode 29 episodes in, and he still can't get it right.
Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. This is why I write it down.
There you go. You got
it came out better that time.
That's nice.
Well, we have Annie on here, and she's going to be sharing some cool stuff with us today. So buckle up. Ooh. It's gonna be a journey this morning because we're gonna be talking about our partnership with Mark Twain, and we're not talking about the poet and author. What are we talking about?
We are talking about an elementary school in Miamisburg, and since it's back to school time, it's the season to be thinking about back to school, and we have started a partnership with them over the past year, and you've heard about it, I'm sure. And so we want to get into that today and talk about where we've been, where we're going.
Yeah, awesome. So,
I have a question.
What's the question?
Can we also do like our favorite Mark Twain quotes?
Well, I was thinking of that, but my question is, why do people like Mark Twain so much? I haven't quite figured that out. Can anybody enlighten me? Because he definitely is like one of the most quotable people, like just because his quotes are really interesting.
I think it's because he says things that make sense, but he says them in a witty way that we like.
Like he's almost like a comedian in a sense of like, he can, was he like a comedian before those existed?
I don't know. He's a writer. He wrote like Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, I know that.
And Huck Finn.
But people don't quote those things as much. Most of the time where you hear him is like his weird, witty quotes.
Where he's from?
Yes, I do.
Missouri.
He's state of Missouri.
He's from, but he's barely in Missouri.
Oh, it still counts. Hannibal, Missouri.
It does count.
But do you know his real name?
Elias Jumperfield.
Clarence, isn't it?
Samuel Clemens.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Pretty close.
I was close.
What did you say?
Alliance Jumperfield.
I like that.
It's just the first thing that popped into my head.
All right, sorry, I derailed things, so.
You're good at that.
All right.
Okay, so we're talking about the elementary school. Do you have a favorite Mark Twain quote, since we never got to say that?
I do not.
Yeah,
I wasn't prepared to answer that
David,
question.
do you have? I bet you have one.
I'm not going to get it exactly right, but a lie goes around the world like 2 times before the truth gets its shoes on, or something. Yeah, I didn't get that exactly right.
That's pretty good. I like that one.
It's a good one.
Yes.
I like that.
2 truths and a lie.
Well, this really has nothing to do with Mark Twain, but
they must have liked him enough to name the school after him.
They did. That's correct.
Yeah. So let's start out then, since we've confused everyone. Let's bring it back.
Yes.
Tell us what our partnership with Mark Twain is about.
Yes. So why do we keep hearing about Mark Twain? So over the past year, we have been helping this school. We have chosen this one in our area because it is a school that's in need.
Okay. What does that mean?
There's a high percentage of poverty in this area, especially this school. So the kids there, many of them don't have enough to eat, or they don't have the means to, get school supplies. Yep. And so we know that because... So
this is we want to say this is a local school in our area that is close enough to the church that people from that area could come to the gathering. Right.
Exactly. So we've got Miamisburg, Springboro, Centerville.
Yeah.
All around us. We're like right in the middle of all of those 3 areas. And so we identified that is an area where...
So it's our community.
It's our community.
Yeah.
Where people are in need. There's a high number of people in need. And so...
So why do we care about that?
Why do we care about that?
I mean, that seems like a very cold question to ask, because obviously we should care about it.
Pick me.
Yes. Why,
David wants
why
to
do we
answer.
care about that? Because you talked a little bit about it on Sunday, didn't you?
I might have.
Okay.
But because Jesus told us to love our neighbors.
Right.
And these are literally our neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing to say, because a lot of times in church, you just go buy items, you put it in a bucket, and you call it a day, or you write a check. And this is like physically our community, the people we live around, the people that we should be loving, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so as a church, what we want to do is make it easy for people to contribute something, whether it's
We're connecting the need
Connecting, yes.
with the people
Yes.
who can help
Right.
with the need.
Exactly. And so we want to give people an array of opportunities that they can get involved in. They can contribute to whatever they feel called to do.
Okay.
And so over the past year, we have helped the school in many different ways.
Yeah. Can you tell us some of those ways?
I would love to.
Yeah.
So we chose one classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So our connection with the school is through a member of our church.
One grade level, one classroom,
Yes.
one teacher, a group of students.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have a member of our church who is very passionate about this. Many of you know Brandy Slavens, and she's been our liaison to Mark Twain, and she's been super passionate about this and connecting with this particular teacher. And we have said we're going to adopt this classroom. We're going to take care of this teacher for the year, these kids, and find out what they need. What can we do to help? And so if we can show them God's love through us, then that's a way to share our joy, our light. But we didn't start out saying, this is from the gathering. We started out really just saying, this is an act of kindness.
Yeah.
It's more than a random act of kindness because we've researched, we've thought through why to do these things and what do they need.
We had criteria for picking the school and the classroom that we picked.
Exactly. And then we worked with the teacher to figure out exactly what they need in their classroom.
I was say that's a great way to go about it.
It is, because random acts of kindness are great too, but this really is more of a program that we are looking to grow over time.
Well, in fact, there's a whole book called When Helping Hurts, and that's when missionaries go out and say, hey, our church is good at building things. Let's come. We want to build you a hospital, and they already have 5 hospitals or whatever. Of the church is saying, hey, this is what we want to give to you. You don't go to the community and say, hey, what are your needs? How can we help you with your needs? Because everyone in the community is like, why are you doing this thing when we don't? That's not our actual need.
Yes, exactly. And we know there's a need for teachers right now. Everyone knows after COVID, it was very, very hard for them to come back into the classroom. And things are different now. And so teachers really need to be uplifted. They have a tough job. And so we have chosen to really help them through that. And so some of the things we did last year, school supplies, that's kind of a basic need.
Yeah.
And we had so many school supplies donated by you generously that we kept boxes back.
Oh, great.
And each month replenished the supply for the teachers. And it became not just our teacher, it became many of the other teachers in the school that we helped. You know about the board games for indoor recess. These kids were really bored in indoor recess, which then, is hard for the teachers.
It's very hard for the teacher.
It's wasted time.
For someone who has to help with that from time to time.
Yes.
That's a great thing to do.
Yes. So we got overwhelmed with these fantastic board games for the kids. And so we blessed the entire school with that.
Yeah.
We also collected snacks. That may seem like a small thing, but it's a really big thing, actually, because in testing week, the state testing week, the teachers have a lot of pressure on them about how the kids are going to perform. And then the kids get tired. They may come to school without breakfast. So teachers pay for these snacks out of their own money.
Yeah.
And so we alleviated that.
Right. So,
with all of the snacks that were donated here, we sent them over there for the testing week, and it really helped the week go much better.
That's awesome. So if you are watching and you donated, thank you.
Yes.
If you're watching and you're interested, we're going to talk about that right now.
Absolutely.
So I want to, pose 2 questions. What are some upcoming opportunities that we have? And then how can people find out about that? Where can they hear about it?
Yes.
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
So we have to do this portion of the podcast in a way that we create a really good clip that we can run in the services too.
Right. Okay. So one at a time.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. Question number 1. No, we won't say it that way.
Is that called bringing down the third wall or something?
Breaking down the 4th wall.
The 4th? There's 4.
Yeah, but we've never really acknowledged that wall, so.
But if you break down 4 walls, doesn't the ceiling
thing.
fall in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think you might not. I mean, who's saying that there's a ceiling? There could just be
That's it.
walls.
It's the concept that once you break that fourth wall, any illusion.
Isn't there a church without walls? Isn't that a thing?
Church, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they just never built the fourth wall.
Walls.
churches minus the walls.
All right. Sorry.
Wait,
That's
how can
okay.
you have a church without walls but still have a roof? Okay, never mind.
I do believe I have the spiritual gift.
Annie's
of-
like,
I'm lost.
bring it back around. Okay.
All right.
So great. We're interested in helping with Mark Twain.
Yes.
What are some opportunities that are coming up this year for people to get involved in?
So this year we're going to do a supply drive again, but it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be specifically what the teachers are asking for. And so we have an Amazon wish list. You don't have to buy it on Amazon. You can buy it anywhere and bring it into the church. There's a bin in the lobby for your donations, but it's things like Clorox wipes. So the funding for this COVID relief has run out. And so now teachers need cleaning supplies,
Yeah.
tissue boxes. I mean, just really simple, basic things that
Yeah.
are just a huge blessing to them. So you can find that list. Well, it's on our Facebook community page. And also David's going to send an email about it with a
Great.
link, and you can bring those items to church with you.
Yeah. Is it on the Church Center app?
It is not yet, but it will be.
Okay.
The next
So
thing
we
I'm
can
going to
say
talk
cut
about
that.
is, yeah.
It will be. It is. Yes, it is on the Church Center app.
Yeah. So what's on the Church Center app now is the volunteer opportunities.
Okay.
So we're going to get
At
into
Mark
that
Twain.
next.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So go ahead with your second question.
Great. So how can people get involved with helping with Mark Twain?
So if you are feeling like you love to be in schools, you want to give some time to this effort, we have a ton of different volunteer opportunities. And this is really a way to glorify God. When you go out and serve other people, you are really being the hands and feet of Jesus. And that's what we want to give people the opportunity to do. And so not everyone loves to be in a classroom. Not everyone loves to work in a homeless shelter. So what we're trying to do is give an array of things.
I love this because we do the same things in a lot of things in the church.
Yes.
What we call like easy on ramps because not everyone's going to want to go on the same
Right.
entry point, but we all want them to be serving somewhere and doing something good in our community. So the more opportunities you give,
Yeah.
the more likely the most amount of people will be serving. And
Exactly. And so we have on our Church Center app,
Yeah.
we have a list of all the different volunteer opportunities at Mark Twain.
Yeah.
And there are things like serving teachers special treats once a month. So we're calling it a sunshine cart. So if you want to be a part of our sunshine crew, we're going to go through the hallways of Mark Twain and serve coffee, snacks.
so like someone is physically going to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Once a month. It's going to be the first Friday of
So
each
there might be
month.
a volunteer could actually show up and go to the school and
Yes,
push a cart.
They're
Oh,
going
that
to
sounds
serve
awesome.
the teachers.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yes, and so they can actually
Be there.
and like interact with the teachers. I mean,
Oh.
only for a second, but so that's a really great
So maybe
opportunity.
if you ever wanted to be like a flight attendant, this is your opportunity.
Yes, but you can. It's only like an hour or two.
Yeah.
And so we know that a lot of people work during the day, and so that's kind of hard. To be available during the school day at
Yeah.
times. All of these opportunities are during the school day. I mean,
Right.
just by default,
Well, yeah,
they have
yeah.
to be during
Makes
the school
sense.
day. But if it's only once a month, maybe people could flex, or if they're feeling passionate about that and they want to get more information, that's why I'm here. That's why our Church Center app is out there for how you can sign up.
Perfect.
You can talk to Brandy Slavens about it. She has actually been in the school quite a bit this summer and all of this past year, building relationship with them.
Yeah.
And so she has a lot of knowledge about just the needs there and the feeling there, the atmosphere there. So that's one thing, Sunshine Cart.
Awesome.
The next thing would be if you like to work with kids, you could go and read to kids in a small reading group or an individual that may need more help
Yeah.
with reading.
Very needed because
Yes.
I know speaking for someone who has a child who needs a little extra guidance, the teacher can't be there for all the kids, and especially with the class sizes. So
Right.
having someone there to give them a few pointers can really help a student out. And, when you're talking about a school district that may have a lot of needs, then, it's a really awesome thing to do.
It is. And that could be a 20-minute session.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a very short time frame. We could even set it up to where, you work with this individual, you work with a couple different individuals or small groups. In an hour,
Yeah.
you've helped these kids very deeply. And so this is 1st to 5th grade. And so 5th graders may need, some extra reading help. They can read to you, or they can work on comprehension
Yeah.
with you. So there's a lot of different kids in different places where
Right.
they could use reading help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Anything else?
Yes. So if you like to be in the school,
Yeah.
but maybe you don't feel comfortable with like academics and things, you could do recess duty. So
Okay.
go and play with kids,
Right.
kind of supervise kids,
Awesome.
blow the whistle when it's time to go in,
Yeah.
just kind of see their joy and as they're playing at recess or lunch duty.
Yeah.
Lunch duty is always a big one. And the big point about this is it gives teachers a break in
Yeah.
the day. Sometimes they don't have time to eat their lunch. And so if they can have a few extra minutes while someone else is taking
Yeah.
that duty, even just once a week,
Right.
they would really, really appreciate that
Okay.
help.
So one more time.
Yeah.
Lots of opportunities. We
Yeah.
just talked about a lot. Where can they find those?
Church Center app.
Church Center app. They can find all the opportunities. There's going to be some other ways we're communicating it.
Yes.
But all those will be posted on Church Center app.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us, and just
Absolutely.
thank you for your passion and your love for our community and your interest in helping others. I mean, it's something that has really helped our church love our community, and you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. Well,
Yep.
I couldn't do it without all of the volunteers and all of our people that champion each one of our areas. I really appreciate everyone's help. So it's been great.
Yeah, and if you want to be on our list of other opportunities to come up beyond Mark Twain, then on the connection card there is a spot where you can say I'd like information about outreach. So if you check that, which a lot of people have been,
Yes.
that goes directly to Annie, and then when we have opportunities, she can get directly in contact with you. So,
I'll have lots of information for you.
all right,
All right. Thank you.
yep. David, are you gonna join us up here now?
Is it my time?
Yep,
Are you
it is
gonna
your
pick me
time.
up?
All right. So
Okay.
it's
Sorry.
it's
Annie, you
transition
have a great
time.
rest of
Thank
your
you
day.
very
We're gonna
much for
transition.
having
All right.
All right.
So first question for David while he's coming over here is, I'm just going to say it, where are the snacks? I mean, you gave me a hard time last time I came back from my trip. Are we sharing your water? Is that water from Yellowstone?
Have I ever brought snacks?
I thought you brought the bacon bites one time. Didn't he bring in remember the donut covered bacon thing we did for his 10-year
I do remember
anniversary?
that. Yep. But
I didn't bring those. They were just here.
Well, you brought them into here and shared them with the rest of us.
Yeah,
You know, I was hoping
that's
for
not
some
my
wedding
job.
cake.
That's your job.
you're the snack guy.
You're the snack guy.
I'm just saying, you gave me a hard time about it. I was just figured
Look,
that you
you
might.
are the connections pastor, so it is your job to connect us with really yummy snacks.
I mean, can I have a sip of your water?
No, that's gross. I don't want your backwash in my.
I'm very good at not giving backwash because I have little kids, so I teach them.
I'm very good at preventing backwash by not sharing.
Exactly.
I could but you could do that thing where it's like, pour it directly in your mouth. That's
Well, now we got to see it. Now he's promising he can pour it from up
No,
here.
I don't want to do
How
that.
about I
Directly
pour
into
it?
Actually, I
How
don't
about,
wanna-
how
I
about
don't
I
wanna-
pour it in your mouth?
I don't want to drink after
Just to
you.
make sure we don't have
I
any
changed my
backwash.
mind.
Here we go. Come on.
I
Open
changed
up.
my mind.
baptized.
Open up.
I changed my mind. Well, we're gonna get rid of these.
All right. I'm going to move this a little bit here.
Okay. So we have some sermon questions for you today, and we just kicked off our sermon
No
series.
fun game.
No, I have just some questions.
So I've been watching the podcast. Like I leave and everybody plays the fun games.
We were debating whether or not to save the
Are
Gen
you a
Z
fun
Bible
guy?
for you, but
Get that fun guy.
fun guy.
It's not a. It's
like
it's
a
not bad.
science
It's not
joke.
bad. It's a dad joke. It's not bad. Not bad. I'd give it
I
like
mean,
a.
if you
B,
are what you
a
eat, and I
solid
eat
B.
mushrooms, so maybe
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how was your trip? Why don't you tell us a little bit about
That's not a-
where
that's
you
not a
were?
game.
It's a fun question though. We all are curious. Where was David? Where in the world was David?
How long have you been at this church?
I have been here a little over 9 years.
And in all of that time, how often do I like to spend talking about myself and what I do?
But the rest of us, that's how we get to know each other, and that's the way that like I get your point of you.
The rest
maybe
of
you
us.
you don't like to do that, but for all of us,
hold on right there. Let me help you.
we
with something.
use
No, stop.
My,
I want
my
to give
train
you a
of thought
dad
is still
joke.
going.
I got
okay. Yes. Yeah.
So whenever you're going to say something like "I get your point" or something like
yeah,
that,
which I say a lot.
right? What you have to say is you have a point there. So
You
say
have a
that.
point. You have a point there.
And then you say, "But if you wear a hat, no one will notice."
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
But when I say there, it could be anywhere.
No, but
That's a point on your head. It doesn't have to be on your head.
That's what makes it a dad joke.
That's the whole thing.
That's the point of the dad joke.
You're setting it up by saying you have a point there, and everybody thinks you mean one thing, but then when you say, "But if you wear a hat, no one will notice," that's you saying you have a point
on your head.
Yes, right. That's
Pointy head.
yeah.
Still not funny, but okay.
Too intelligent for dad jokes.
No.
See, most people jokes go over their head, but for
You would
Steve,
like-
everything goes below him.
You would like to say that David is the most intelligent
Who would
one
like
here.
to say that?
David.
Most people would. I think most people would. I think most people would say that.
I would say most people assume that, right?
Who is,
That's
who
a
is the
little bit of
most
a different-
intelligent person on the gathering staff? You know who
Rebecca.
I think Becca is?
No, not Becca. Rebecca. Yeah.
You know who I think? Jeremy.
Jeremy?
I think Jeremy.
How are we measuring intelligence? Like IQ?
Or just
I don't know.
See, there's two
I don't
types
know.
of like
Maybe not IQ, maybe that's not a
There's
great way,
people
but-
who have like really good like problem solving skills, and then there's people who just know everything, and often those two are not the same person.
Well, Jeremy, what hurts him is he, just his language is so weird and strange the way he talks.
I love
sometimes.
Jeremy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with how Jeremy talks.
No, he makes up words sometimes, and I'm like, I just am confused.
We're gonna have to cut this out so that way Jeremy doesn't quit.
But Jeremy knows that he makes up words from time to time, or it comes out wrong or something. I just gave him a huge compliment. I think he's the most intelligent person.
I think he's
on
super
staff.
intelligent, but I don't like the way he talks.
No, it's what makes Jeremy Jeremy. We all
Steve,
have our
I think
quirks.
you're really good looking, but you're also really ugly.
But I'd rather not look at you.
Just look away.
I think you're really good looking as long as I keep my eyes closed.
So these are the comments that also make people love me too. That
Yeah.
it's endearing, right?
Sure.
David
that's
doesn't
the word.
count.
That's the word.
David's opinion doesn't count on this.
Wow.
Okay. So you didn't bring us any snacks. What did you do on why were you gone for 2 weeks?
We went out to Oregon for Liam's wedding.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was good.
It was.
Who is Liam?
Yeah. Who is Liam?
For people who've been
My
on
son.
Okay.
There you go.
The pictures, I will say, the pictures that I saw that you posted may be one of the first times I've seen you in a picture where you actually look really happy. I'm just saying you don't often there's not a picture shows emotion that you could just totally read it, but you looked very happy in those pictures. So I know
you
it must have
happy?
been memorable.
Is that
I'm trying to decide what to do with that because there's a couple directions I could go there.
Yeah.
Right. Like one direction is to just say, Steve, why do you keep saying all these things about people? Like first it's Jeremy and it's John's pointy head, and now I'm never happy, and why are you doing this? But the other direction I could go is, well, yeah, I was happy. I was 2,000 miles away from you.
That hurts, but let's move on.
I mean, it was my son's wedding.
Yeah.
That is an opportunity to be happy, right?
Yeah.
And
I think you're a great dad, and I'm just complimenting
thanks.
you.
I think
on
you're a
that.
great son.
I mean, you're not my dad. But this thing is all sticky here.
This episode is brought to you by Ancestry.com.
So about that sermon.
Yes, sermon.
Yeah, sermon.
Minor prophets. You want to? Is that where you want to go now?
I think that's where we should go
You're
now.
done. Okay.
Yeah, I
All right.
think-
So we just
yeah.
started a sermon series. My question here is, why are we learning about the minor prophets? Why is that important? Why now?
Yeah. So there's lots of good answers to
Yeah.
that, right? So I think one of the reasons is because it's in the Bible. That's kind of an easy one, right? But it's a part of the Bible we've not really gotten into much since I've been here. So, we'll get into a minor prophet every now and then. Like, there's some good Christmas passages in there. We've done a little bit with Jonah here and there, but for the most part, we've really not touched on those 12 books. And so I thought, it's about time to really cover those and help. I want people to understand the whole Bible,
Right?
And that means teaching from the whole Bible.
Yeah. And what some people may not know, because I didn't. It took me a while before I had learned this, but kings had many prophets. I think there's a mention where one king had like 2,000 prophets. So we only hear from so many of them in the Bible, but there were a lot of prophets out there. So we have the major prophets, and the reason they're major prophets is because they've written a lot, and the minor prophets had not written as much, but that doesn't necessarily, mean like there's other things that they could have done that we just don't know about
Right.
because it isn't written down and it's not in the scripture. So on Sunday, you talked a little bit about the translation that you were using for it. And you said you were reading from the NLT.
I did.
And you normally use the ESV. And I think this is very timely because last month we read James chapter 3 30 times. And a lot of people chose to switch up translations. And I don't know, I probably had 10 people come up to me and be like, hey, I read James chapter 3 in this version and I loved it. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the different translations. I think that was a really good point you made on Sunday. So explain to us why you use the NLT for Sunday.
Well, how much do you want me to go into this?
Well, just an overview of like, I thought I specifically liked when you broke down what the major translations were doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the Bible was obviously written in different language.
Yeah.
It was written, Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic. And so if we want to read it, we either have to learn Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic, or
Who wants to do that?
Or we have to read a translation.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I didn't talk about this on Sunday. There's this mindset out there of some people that they say you can't really understand the Bible if you don't learn the original languages, right? And obviously, this is a mindset mostly among pastors and academics.
Do you believe that?
No.
Okay.
And that's why I want to tear that down because I just think it's really harmful. It creates like classes of Christians, right? You've got like your normal Christians, but then you've got the really, really spiritual, righteous Christians who
know Greek and Hebrew.
They read the Greek Bible for their morning devotions, right?
Yeah.
And as you get into like academics and seminaries and stuff, you have a lot of people who are like, well, if you don't know these, you can't really.
Well, I know in my seminary, the teacher read directly from the Greek when we were going over.
Yeah. Which, that's fine. I think it's good for pastors to learn that stuff. I think that's helpful. But the real problem I have is if I were to devote like 3 years of my life to learning Greek or Hebrew, either one, I could probably get pretty good at it. But I would never be as good as those who have devoted their whole lives to it.
Yeah.
And it's the ones who have devoted their whole lives to it that are the ones that are doing the translations. And so it's kind of arrogant of me to say, well, I'm going to do my own translation for my own personal study because I learned Greek and Hebrew, so I can make my own translation and it's going to be better. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Now, every translation is different, right? The ESV is different from the NIV, is different from the KJV, is different from the NLT. They're all different. But when you put them all together, and you see how different people have interpreted these things, that is so much more beneficial than me just looking at the Greek myself and doing it on my own.
Yep.
And so that's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of saying read multiple English translations.
Yes.
If you can get into the Greek, that's fine. And sometimes there are little things that are helpful when you look at the original languages. But more often than not, a quick Google search will tell you what those things are.
Yep.
Right? I mean, this is one of the things that AI does for us now, which is crazy. And you want to verify stuff for sure, but you can actually ask the Chat GPT and say, hey, break down this word in the original languages, and I'll often say, hey, tell me where else this Greek word is used in the New Testament, and tell me how it was used in ancient Greece. And I want to see that. And that can be really kind of cool also.
This is very helpful.
Yeah, but back to the translations. English translations are great. You can learn a lot from them. I think the big thing to understand is you have to know what you're doing to know which translation you should be using. So if I'm like actually studying, and especially if I'm in the New Testament and I'm like maybe wanting to get some doctrinal truths, that kind of thing, ESV is fantastic because it's word for word.
Yep.
All right. It's the NLT not going to be so good there because the New Living Translation is really like a paraphrase, and there's a lot of paraphrases out there that are really helpful. They give you a new perspective. Like the Message is kind of the original paraphrase. There's others since then that have come out, and then you have like the NIV, which is kind of the most common, the most purchased, I believe, English translation ever.
We can confirm that because we talked about that.
Okay.
I think we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is more of a kind of a phrase for phrase, but it's still pretty accurate. There are some things that it doesn't get right, just like all of them don't get everything perfectly translated. That's why you can look at multiple ones and learn a lot. I think there are dangerous translations out there. I think you have to be a little bit careful. You should know who the translators are. Like, don't read a translation that's been done by one person, right? The best translations are done by multiple people who are working together, and they're actually at times arguing with each other and saying, hey, I think we should use this word. I think we should use this word. I think we should phrase it this way. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
You should be careful about any translation that like one person does. They're like, well, this is my one person. And the moment they claim that they had God's help doing it, like in some miraculous revelation, run.
Yeah.
That's like Joseph Smith stuff, right? Like he's the guy who started the Mormons.
It was a divine revelation that only he heard.
Well, he had like these stones that he claimed gave him special insight. Nobody else ever saw them and weird stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So just a quick overview. NLT, easy to read. It's more of a meaning, not necessarily word for word translation.
Really good for reading.
Really good
not
for
great
reading.
for studying.
Not great for studying because it goes for the meaning, not the direct translation.
Right.
ESV, direct word translation, you're going to get more of a word for word on it.
Yep. Great for studying.
Yep. And then NIV is what?
Kind of a mix, right?
Mix of both.
So the NIV is good for studying, but not quite as good as the ESV.
Okay.
And it's good for reading, but not quite as good as the NLT. It's a great everyday Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's three. Those are pretty widely used in our realm.
Yeah.
I mean,
we didn't even talk about the King James.
I know. Well, I mean, you could talk about that one if you want to. That one's widely used, but that can be a divisive one too in the church world because you got some people who are like King James only. I've never heard of anyone who's like ESV only or NIV only. I don't know if those exist.
There was for a time an NASB only,
which
group.
that's a good one too. John likes that one.
I like
right?
an ASV.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
It's like a
Is that
harder to read version of the ESV.
It's what?
It's a little bit harder to read than the ESV.
Well, it's also a word for word.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I thought. I mean, I was guessing that had to be that, but I know for me, I have, like, you've heard me say I love the NLT because I much more love the reading of it. So, like, in the beginning pages of my Bible, it actually lays out how they translated, who they did, who was on the team that translated it. So I'm not sure if every Bible is that way, but
I think it depends on like which version of the version
sure,
you get.
Yeah, I always get the study Bibles because those are the ones that I love the most. But my study Bible has a lot of extras in it, and you can read right through it. You might even be surprised all the extra things in your Bible when you start reading those.
Actually, but we should cover that just real quickly though. Study Bibles are awesome.
Yes.
And if you don't have a study Bible, basically you have the biblical text on top, and then either on the bottom or in the middle, you have like extra notes.
Yes. And then there's stuff at the beginning and the end, and then
intro stuff.
In the beginning of each chapter, it'll talk about all the main points and who the author was and all of that stuff.
But here's the point I want to make is that the extra notes are not the Bible.
Right.
and shouldn't be read with the same level of authority. And I think sometimes people don't understand
Yep.
that completely. It's like, it was in my Bible, so it's the Bible.
Right.
No. It's commenting on the
Commenting.
Bible.
You can't just you have to read multiple of those. I always have like my NLT and my ESV, and I'll kind of compare the notes, and I might read
Yeah.
both.
It actually opens up a need for even greater study, because you need to understand where the person commenting on the Bible is coming from, which forces you sometimes to understand what version of the Bible they even
Right.
were reading originally, and how, I should say translation, not version, but what school of thought they're coming from, and you'll grow from just learning that.
Yeah.
But you need to be so mindful of the voice that's telling you what is
Right.
true.
Yeah, words of God, 100% trustworthy. The words of man in the Bible, probably, depending on which one you have, 80 to 90% trustworthy. So just a caution.
Caution there. Okay, so the last 12 books of the last 12 books of the Old Testament are called minor prophets. Why is that?
Because they dug up coal. weren't
was
the
scared
seven
of pickaxe.
weren't the
My
seven
pickaxe.
dwarfs miners?
Not.
I have no idea. Snow White.
They were. Hi ho, it's off to work we go.
They went
they
to work
re-
in. Didn't they go to work in the mines?
See, I thought they were redoing that movie, and not that
They're not dwarves anymore.
they're not dwarves anymore.
Yep.
They got canceled.
What are this? The
It's like we shouldn't talk
Snow
about this
White.
Yeah, I know.
podcast.
Snow White and the 5'6" guys.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I heard they're redoing it. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So why is the minor prophets? Why are the last 12?
Well, you said it. They're shorter. That's.
Short.
I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Is they're shorter because there isn't really another characteristic that they all share. Like some of them are just like copies of sermons that these
Yeah.
guys preach. Some of them are actual writings that they wrote as warnings. Some of them are stories. So like Jonah, that's a story. So there's a really wide mix of what they are, but they're all shorter. So I think the longest one is like 12 No. 14 chapters. I think, Hosea is 14 chapters.
Yeah.
That's our first one.
So here's a dumb question. Okay.
There are no dumb questions,
I know.
Steve.
I'm just
dumb
stating-
people.
dumb people.
I'm just stating it this way because it's obvious, but I think it still needs to be said. So, in a minor prophet, sometimes you could think, well, maybe their message wasn't as important as an Isaiah, right? Who wrote a lot in a very prolific book. Like he just was an awesome writer, right? Too. So, like. Is it less important because it's minor than an Isaiah, or does that not have any weight into it?
That's a great question, actually.
Yeah.
It's not a dumb question at all. Because I think you can expand that to the whole Bible,
Yeah.
right? And I would say there is no part of the Bible that is less important than any other part of the Bible. However, we do have to pay attention to context, right? And like, what exactly is this, and who is the audience? And different parts of Scripture will have different degrees of transfer to us at different times.
Yeah.
Right. So like Philemon, short book in the New Testament, written as a one-on-one letter from Paul to one guy.
Yeah.
And it would be easy to say, well, that can't be as important as like John, right? The Gospel of John. But there are some really important things we can learn there. So I would say there are none that are less important or more important. They do have different degrees of transfer at time.
Yeah.
But I think the key for us is to always our starting point is always to say, what is this teaching me about God? Because if we start from what does this get for me, we'll probably miss out on the more important message. And so we're going to try really hard to do that in the Minor Prophets, to say, what is this teaching us about God?
Okay. So why don't we hear more about the minor prophets? Why are they kind of pushed to the side often in sermons, in studies that we have? Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is because they come from a time in history that is hard to understand.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of writing, and we don't understand everything that's going on. I think there's a lot in them that is difficult to read. Some of them are heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be overly critical, but I think sometimes pastors say that's going to be a lot of work for me to really understand accurately what's being said here, and then B, figure out how to communicate that in a meaningful way, because
relevant way.
and in a timely way, because what I have to do is like I'm taking maybe 4 or 5 chapters of really heavy writing.
Yeah.
And I got to figure out how to in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Distill that down and give people something that is hopeful and helpful, and that they can take with them and
Yeah.
do something about.
So why can't you just take one section of it and not necessarily address the whole?
I could.
Yeah.
But I mean, essentially, we will do that to one degree because there's 12 books, right?
Right.
And so, if we were to really dig into them, we could take 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
and work our way through that. But what we'll do is, pretty much it's going to be one prophet per week, and so we'll kind of do a quick overview of what's this prophet's message, where is he at in history, and then kind of drill down on one piece of it. But most weeks we're going to start with the last verse, and that's going to be kind of fun to say, here's the last thing this guy said. So, how does that inform us as to everything else that he said?
Okay. Great. Well, one final question here
Okay.
for you. This is like just a fun question.
Okay, good.
Well, now we have fun.
Finally.
So this is personal too, a little bit. What was, when you were there at your son's wedding, was it what you had like expected and pictured? Because so in life, right?
Is it everything you were dreaming
Oftentimes
of?
when you get on, I'm just going to put it like this, because when you get on a plane or something and maybe you're nervous about being on the plane, you're like, I just want to make through this plane so I can see my kid graduate, so I can, see my son married, so I can see my grandkids, whatever, there's always the milestones in life that you want to really see. Right. And seeing your son or daughter get married is one of them. So was it what you had expected it to be like? Yes or no? Yeah. And why?
All right, so I'm going to back up a little bit because there's a really important life lesson here.
Okay.
So not everybody thinks the same.
Yes.
Right? I don't really go through life with a ton of expectations.
Okay.
Right? I think you probably know this about me.
Yeah.
I'm very much all right, what's next? Mm-hmm. All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So I don't think my son's wedding was necessarily something that I had in my mind built up to be all of these things.
Right.
Oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be this. I'm very much like, okay, what are we going to do here?
Yeah.
Right? And add on to that, my son is a lot like me in that way.
Yeah.
Right? He's an engineer. So he married an engineer.
Yeah.
And so this wedding was spreadsheeted out. Unbelievably.
Yeah.
Everything was planned. Everything was, I love that. I love my lists. It was great. So it wasn't like there were a ton of expectations. We knew what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And then it was just, are we going to execute it?
So it met your expectations of what you had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's good to go through life with lowered expectations.
Yes, it is.
Because then you'll never be disappointed.
I totally agree with that.
And then you might always be happy in the photos you take.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But I find with movies, if I go into it, lower expectation, I generally enjoy them more too.
Yeah, the worst thing is ever someone talks up a movie like, oh, this is the best movie of the year.
you
So you
go
go
see it,
in and you're like, it probably would have been a good movie.
If you
but now I think it was a
hadn't
bad
talked it up.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even better to go in with no expectations.
Yeah.
To just approach, if you
Just
can
randomly pick. I'll go see that
Or,
movie.
or
no,
just
no,
wait till
no,
it
not
comes
that,
out so
but
you don't spend the money on it and then you can't be
This
disappointed.
is total zero expectations.
learn to approach life with a sense of wonder and inquisition. I know that's a bad word. We shouldn't say inquisition, but I mean, approach life like that. Let's just say, what is this? What's
Are we
going on
talking
here?
to the audience or are you talking to me? Okay.
Yes, both.
Okay,
yes.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. Approach life, not so much saying, is this what I want or not want? Is this what I expect or don't expect? Just, what is this? And what does it mean for me? And what should I do next? You'll be much happier, even in your pictures.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks for spending some time with us on the Gathering Greenhouse podcast. I hope you learned something today, and thank you for sharing your life experiences and a little bit about the Bible with us.
All right.
Have a great day.